On my darkest days, I open my eyes and the battle already starts. Is today going to be the same as yesterday? Is everything just going to repeat again? Is this cycle ever going to change? There are days when I don't even have the energy to get out of bed. And when I do get up, I get up with fear. Fear of how the day is going to end. Because all I can see is what I lived through yesterday. The things I didn't solve. The problems that are still there. The doors that didn't open. And the more this repeats, the harder it becomes to believe that anything can actually change. Because it starts to feel like a pattern, a cycle, something that just keeps happening again and again and again. And that starts messing with my mind, because it's not just about what's happening outside, it's about what starts happening inside. My mind starts talking to me, and the worst part is, it doesn't sound wrong. It takes everything that already happened and starts building a narrative, a story that makes sense, a story that feels logical, a story that feels based on facts. You've tried this before. You've seen how this ends. Nothing really changes. And when you hear that every day, it starts to feel true. Not like a thought, but like a conclusion. Like you've already reached the end of the story, even though you're still in the middle of it. And that's where things get dangerous, because you don't consciously quit. You don't say, I'm done, but you change. You start trying less. You start expecting less. You start believing less. And without realizing it, you start living according to that story. And that's what scares me the most, because it feels real. It feels like reality. But deep down, it's just repetition. My mind isn't showing me what's possible. It's only showing me what already happened. And the more I focus on that, the more I start to understand something I didn't see before. Not everything my mind tells me is true. Some things are just patterns. Patterns that repeated so many times they started to feel permanent. But they're not. If this resonates with you, if you've been feeling this, subscribe to the channel. We're not talking about theory here. We're living this in real time. There was a moment when this became very clear to me. I was in one of those days when everything felt heavy, no answers, no direction, no sign that anything was changing. And I realized the problem wasn't just what was happening. It was what I was believing about it. Because I was already entering the day expecting nothing to work. And when you walk in like that, you don't move the same way. You don't try the same way. You don't show up the same way. And then the results come, and they confirm exactly what you already believed, and the cycle continues. And there's something else I started to notice. Your mind doesn't just react to what happens, it anticipates. It predicts. It tries to stay ahead. Not to help you grow, but to protect you from feeling the same pain again. And at first, that sounds like something good. It feels like your mind is trying to take care of you. But the problem is, it doesn't know the difference between protecting you and holding you back. Because when your mind sees a pattern, it assumes the future will follow the same path. And once it makes that assumption, it starts adjusting your behavior. Quietly, subtly, without you even noticing. You hesitate more. You overthink simple decisions. You delay things you used to do naturally. You start questioning yourself before you even take the first step. And all of that comes from one place, a belief that was built from repetition. And this is where it gets even deeper, because the more you act based on that belief, the more you reinforce it. You don't show up fully, so your results are weaker. Your results are weaker, so your belief gets stronger. And your belief gets stronger, so you show up even less. And just like that, you create a loop. A loop that feels like reality, but it's not. It's a reflection of what you started believing. And the hardest part is it feels justified, it feels logical, it feels like you're just being realistic. But sometimes, what we call being realistic is just fear wearing a convincing voice. I had to confront that in myself. I had to look at my own thoughts and admit that not all of them were helping me. Some of them were protecting me, but some of them were limiting me. And the problem is, they sound the same. Fear doesn't always sound like fear. Sometimes it sounds like caution. Sometimes it sounds like logic. Sometimes it sounds like experience. That didn't work before. You already know how this ends. Don't. Waste your time again. And if you don't pay attention, you'll listen to that voice and think it's wisdom. But real wisdom doesn't trap you. It doesn't paralyze you. It doesn't convince you to stop trying. So I had to learn to separate things. Not perfectly, but intentionally. I started asking myself questions. Is this actually true? Or is this just based on what happened before? Is this helping me move forward or keeping me stuck? And that's when something deeper became clear. If I relied only on myself, on my mind, on my strength, I wouldn't make it out of this. That's when I understood the importance of being connected to something greater than me. Because there are moments when you don't have clarity, when you don't have strength, when you don't have answers, but you still have to continue. There's a story that always comes to my mind about someone who was called to move forward without having clear evidence that it would work. No guarantees, no visible outcome, no confirmation. Everything around him said it didn't make sense. Everything around him pointed to risk, but he kept moving. Not because he understood everything, but because he was connected to something greater than himself, and that connection sustained him when nothing else made sense. And I realized that's exactly what we need. Because if you rely only on your mind, it will stop you. It will show you your past and try to define your future with it. And that's why being connected to God is not optional in this process. Because when everything inside you feels weak, you need something that isn't. That doesn't make things easy, but it gives you stability. And from that place, you start moving differently. Not perfectly, not confidently, but consistently. Even when it doesn't make sense. Today I still have hard days. I still have thoughts that try to pull me back. But I don't accept them automatically anymore. I pause. I observe. I question. Is this truth or just repetition? And that creates space. Space to move, space to act differently, space to break the pattern, so I keep going. Even without clarity. Even without answers. Even without results. And maybe that's what you need to do too. Don't believe everything you think. Don't turn patterns into destiny, because your mind might be trying to protect you, but it might also be limiting you. And if you don't see that, you'll stay exactly where you are. But if you do, even a little, everything starts to shift. So if you're in that place right now, where everything feels the same, where nothing seems to move, where your mind already gave you a conclusion, maybe it's not true. Maybe it's just repetition. And if it is, that means it can still change. But you have to keep going, even when your mind tells you not to. If you're still here, if this made sense to you, subscribe to the channel. We're not talking about theory here. We're living this in real time, and we're going to get through this together.